brief break, and then we're back. Welcome, everybody. Back here on Steel Toe, and we have a great guest for you planned today. Coming on a little bit earlier because I got a DM from Shuli, and he said, I'm ready to go if you just want to send me the link. So I fired it off to him. So Shuli will be in here momentarily. Very excited to talk to him. Shuli Egar, who, there's so many things you might recognize him from now. I mean, he's got, first of all, the most current thing, the Uncle Rico show, which is a show primarily dedicated, and I think it's great that we're now at a time where there can be a show dedicated to this, but just shitting on Stuttering John. Now, what I kind of like about the Uncle Rico show is Carl from Who Are These Podcasts, and, whenever we talk about John on our show, usually once a week or so, it's usually just we're reacting to what we're seeing from John. But when you see the guys on Uncle Rico, a lot of them have had personal dealings with John Melendez. And just to hear stories from people who have actually dealt with this man, it's just... I like what we do. I like what Carl does. I think we both do a great job of it. But at the same time, there's only so much we can get. We're giving it to you purely on a reactionary basis. Whereas when you get guys like Shuli and Bob Levy and all of these people who are remarkably funny and have been doing radio for a long time, when you get their more of a firsthand perspective on all of this stuff, it adds a different level to it. So we'll talk to Shuli a little bit later. I also want to talk to him about the Miserable Men show, his time on the Howard Stern show. And then, of course, he's been a stand-up comic forever. So you've got Shuli doing so many new projects. And I tell you what, if you go on to Dabblers Anonymous or you just go on Twitter, you really can't miss the Uncle Rico show. A lot of people are talking about it. But then, of course, there's that time on, the biggest radio show that ever existed. There's a lot of stories to be told there. But all of these different projects he's been a part of and still regularly touring around the country. It's an impressive career. I mean, you think about the Howard Stern show and you think about guys that are doing comedy now and all this stuff. And a guy like Shuli is just one of those guys who has always been there, consistently. He didn't have this meteoric rise and then this huge drop off. He has just always been plugging away, always right there in the conversation. So I'm very excited to talk to him in just a few minutes here. I did send him the link. I don't know if he meant he was ready to go right now and he wanted the link because he'll just pop on, or if he was still going to come on at about 11:30. I wasn't sure, but we'll see. There he is. There's Shuli. How are you, sir?
Hey, pal. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Very excited to talk to you. I cannot, obviously, I'm very much locked in and following all the Stuttering John stuff, and you really can't go anywhere in the Stuttering John world without seeing the Uncle Rico show, so you guys have to be really excited about that.
Yeah, buddy. Things are going very well. I ain't gonna lie.
What was the motivation for that? How did you guys, were you guys just fucking on John and then you said we should probably put microphones in front of ourselves and record it? Or how did you get the idea for the show?
Long story short, he's had some problem with me forever. And back when I was working on the show, he would basically just talk shit about me for no reason, create these stories, these lies that we all are so familiar with now.
Yeah.
That basically, trying to get me fired, trying to get me in trouble, all this weird shit. And I'd finally just kind of had enough. And I was like, I even when I left the show and I started doing my own thing, I didn't really fight back. I just took the high road with him. And then finally I was just like, fuck this shit, man. You know, after doing WATP a few times and seeing how fun it is to goof on him, I'm like, well, I have a personal attachment to this fucking guy. Right. I owe him one, basically. And And yeah, now it's time to fucking pay up. If you would have never fucked with me,
Yeah.
this would never have happened.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking with Shuli Egar, of course, Uncle Rico Show. The links are in the description on their Patreon, patreon.com/The Shuli Show, The Miserable Men Show. There it is. There's the balcony.
There we go. Sorry, I was looking for it. I couldn't find it, but I got it now.
Now, of course, so many credits now. You guys have so many different irons in the fire. And, of course, you're still touring and doing stand-up and all that stuff. Miserable Men, Uncle Rico, of course, on Stern for a long time. You said that John started fucking with you a while ago with the Stern stuff. When did it start? Like, how long have you been biting your tongue?
Oh, for years, for years. I mean, he would make accusations that I was his mole on the inside, giving him information, and at one point accused me of being the one that either filmed the summit meeting that Howard had or released it. And I've said it a million times. Thank God nobody up there takes him seriously because that could have fucked things up for me. And he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He check this out. This is for you guys.
Oh, there you go. The Marshall amps. Oh, no, your green screen fell down, John. Oh,
no. So yeah, it was like, there was just no reason for it. I never said a bad word about the guy. I was a fan of the guy and his stuff in the early years. Like, I think John was great on the Stern Show, and served a great purpose on the show, which was a shit stirrer.
Yeah.
That being said, I had no idea why the guy was attacking me. I had no idea why he was trying to get me fired and get me in trouble. And so it was like, fuck, man, what did I do to this guy? And the other reaction I had was, if he's willing to do this with no cause, why would I fuck with him? But then I'm like, why wouldn't I fuck with him? I got to stick up for myself.
Well, yeah, and you do add, like, the Uncle Rico show and the stuff you've been doing on John. You do add that layer that, like, and I love Carl, and he's got a great show, but like Carl, or if we ever goof on John or anything, like, it just seems we're so removed from it. And I think what makes your show so much funnier, and it makes it so entertaining to watch, is that you were right there. You're on the ground. You're dealing with the guy yourself, and it almost adds a layer of believability to what a piece of shit this guy is to hear it directly from you. Because you watch his show and you go, maybe there's a part of this that's, like pro wrestling, a character that's maybe being played up. And then you hear you and you just get it confirmed for you that, no, this guy's a giant sack of shit.
Yeah, I mean, WATP, Carl, and all those guys, Chris and Vinny. I mean, they're like in fighting, you got a technical fighter and then you got a brawler, right? Yeah. And so they're very technical. They uncover a lot about John's schemes and other shit. Whereas we're just, dummies. We're just dickheads that are just there to goof on. It's basically like an on the spot roast every episode. Yeah. Like, Mike and Bob have not seen these clips. At times, if it's really good, I'll stop watching it just so I can react live with them, because to me, that's my favorite type of comedy of all time, is organic, on the spot comedy. What you can create in that moment. And the guys that I'm working with are so quick and so funny. And it's just it's not work, man. It's just, it's easy. It's taking candy from a baby, because every time he does something, it's worthy of being goofed on.
Yeah, how great is it? I love that when you get one of those videos and you're watching it and you literally stop yourself. It's like you feel that moment of restraint and you're like, if I watch this now, I'm going to ruin it for tomorrow or whenever we're doing it. Those are the best kind of clips to find.
Yeah. And a place like Dabblers Anonymous, where it's just like it's a sea of content surrounding this guy, and there's so many funny people in that thread. Yeah, there's some crazy fuckers in there too, but for the most part, there are people in there that are just with genius sense of humor and knowledge of software and just computer shit and how to. I mean, there's a video up there now. I wish we could play it on Rico. I don't think we can, because I'm sure we'll get a copyright flag from YouTube. But It's they took a scene from a movie where Hitler's in a bunker
I
and
saw that one. Yeah.
and he's screaming to all his personnel about, fucking this up and fucking, it's like the end of the war, he's losing it. And they just made all the subtitles about John, and it
Yeah.
was just like, I want you to find this troll, I want you to find that troll, and then we'll go after Dooley. And they leave no mention out. Like, we were watching his stand-up the other night, and there was a part where he was doing crowd work, and he asked the guy a question. I think he's like, how many kids you got? And the guy was like, oh no, he says, where's your wife? And he goes, is that your wife? He says, no, that's not. And he goes, where the fuck is she, you fucking? And he just stopped whatever he was going to say. And so we made a joke that's like he was going to say the N-word. He's going to call the guy the N-word. And I go, wouldn't it be great if somebody just bleeped it so it looks like he's saying the N-word? And sure enough, Dabblers Anonymous, like a half hour later, somebody made this brilliant clip.
Yeah.
And bleeped it where the title's like John says the N-word at an audience member.
Those guys are so awesome over there. And the only one complaint I would have about them, I mean, they've been very nice to us, and obviously you guys are the kings over there. But one thing they do, and I think you've probably caught on to this too, there's a couple of them. You mentioned a couple of them can be a little psychotic. If you don't give immediate credit right away, like this came from Dabblers Anonymous, some of them do get a little cunty.
No, I get it, man. It's like, this is what it may not be a job, but this is what they do. Right. Yeah. And they're proud of it. And I get it. Listen, if I don't know that I would need to. It's different with stand up. Like as comics, we give other comics tags or something, suggestions for shit. But like, I get it. And at first when we were playing clips, it's like all I did was use stuff from there. And I just mentioned the site, but I didn't give individuals credit. And some of them emailed me and were very nice and professional about it. And some of them were a little angrier about it, but they had a point. Like, hey, this is the shit that I took time out of my day to put together, and you're going to use it. That's cool. But just give me some love. And so I get it. And they deserve it. Because it ain't easy doing what they do, man.
Oh, I was just going to say they deserve all the credit in the world just for the fact that they sit through. I mean, it's not like they can just clip parts of it. They watch the whole fucking show. And I don't know how much, John, you've watched uninterrupted. It's unlistenable.
Buddy, I had an idea to go on my Twitch channel because I stream on Twitch playing video games. I know, ladies. Calm your pussies down. And so I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I go on my Twitch and I watch John's YouTube show live and comment on it? And then, you know what? It'll help with the numbers on Twitch and bring some people in.
Sure.
I think I lasted 8 minutes. I go, guys, this was a horrible mistake. I said, I don't know why I thought I could do this. This show is awful. I got to go.
You know what's crazy is you guys both worked for a man who, say what you want about him now, but you worked for a genius who's the best who ever did what he did. And it's hard, not by osmosis, just to absorb some of those qualities and some of those skills. You look at a guy like you figured it out. You're sitting there with Levy and all these other guys, and you're busting balls, and you're doing a very funny, engaging show. How did he sit there for that long and not pick up anything? Because you watch a Beer on the Balcony where he's got no guest, and he's into like morning zoo hack topics of like the best guitar player and what's the best horror film. And it's like, I mean, how, like, if we went back to 1995, Howard would beat him with a stick for doing what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's listen, I think a lot, and I'm not trying to bring the room down, man, but I think a lot of it has to do with what he's putting his fucking body and mind through all these years. I'm not saying he was a great broadcaster to begin with, and the wheels fell off. Yeah. I'm saying if you go back and you listen to his early podcasts, the guy won't shut the fuck up. He's talking 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's at least going somewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like if you gave Barney from The Simpsons a fucking podcast where you're just like, is this for real? This guy. Yeah. So, and then you'll see him try to be like with female guests. He'll try to be like Howard was back in the day. And it's so creepy. And it's so not, he doesn't know how to do it. And yes, you absolutely absorbs stuff. You better. He's the greatest guy to ever do it.
Right.
What's wrong with absorbing shit from me? I can't tell. Attell is one of the greatest comics alive.
Yeah.
And he helps out so many comics by bringing so many different comics on the road with him. But I swear to you, and any comic in New York will tell you, once you do 2 months with Dave Attell, your cadence is now Dave Attell.
Yeah.
When you're doing your jokes, so you absolutely will pick that stuff up, and I'll catch myself doing stuff that he's done.
Yeah.
And I look at it like, fuck, man, this guy was my humor mentor.
Yeah.
My sense of humor mentor. And in a way, Uncle Rico is a tribute to that show in its prime, where it's just sniper shot after sniper shot. Something comes up in the video that takes us 10 minutes out off the path that we were on.
Right.
Whereas Robin would be doing the news and something would happen and they'd spend 45 minutes busting Jackie's balls. Like that, to me, is where that's where I fell in love with that show. So I love it when people tell us it reminds them of the old episodes, man.
No, it is. It's very good. It's just that stripped down to that base of, hey, we're fucking on this guy and we're going to, you guys, you pull every single thread. Like you don't leave a thread unpulled. If you or Bob or somebody else tugs on something, the rest of you go, all right, let's see how far this one goes. And it's just, you're right. It is like when Robin would read one story and then you're like, oh, I guess we're only getting through one story in the news today.
Yeah, like that's the thing, with Gilbert coming on back in the day, like forget it. Robin would never get through the news. Gilbert and Artie together, fucking around, like, and we also do it from a place of ball busting. Like we get mad watching him. We call him an idiot. We call him a dirty pig. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we don't go after his what does he always say? They went after my
trans kid is one of his big go-tos.
Well, no, that we definitely stay off limits.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm a dad. I'm not looking to bring kids into a fight, and his kid never did anything wrong to me, and I wish his kids nothing but the best. His wife, the same thing. My crosshairs are on that dickhead.
Yeah.
He's the one that's fucked with me for years. He's the one that's this smug dickhead that, had he just leaned into this, which I've said for a long time, open the floodgates, let all the trolls in, post every super chat you get, and you will be making thousands of dollars.
Right.
But he can't. He's got an ego. He's still living in the glory days as WATP has coined. But
so why, and I know he'll never say, so you have to kind of have developed your own theory over the years. Why you? Is it something like he sees what his spot on the show was? This is all I can think of. Like he sees where he was. He's a delusional fuck, and he sees his position as like higher than yours, but enough to threaten his. I feel like as the years went on, you started getting as much time, if not more, than John ever did. So is it like a feeling of threat, or what? Why were you the target? Why did he obsess on you so badly?
I wish, I mean, all I can do is just throw, theories out there, because I don't know, because he'll never admit, now he goes around saying he doesn't even know who I am, but if you look at, his track record in studio, the guy was in there, they were either playing clips of stuff that these guys wrote for him to go and say, or he was in there getting goofed on, or he was in there goofing on Gary. Whereas my stuff was like, I was bringing in content. I was bringing in clips from Talking to Underdog. I was going and doing stuff with them that I was coming up with content on the fly. I didn't come out there with a set of questions for Underdog that the writing people wrote for me. I would sit there before they had a Wack Pack team that they split up all the Wack Packers to, that they were all mine.
Yeah.
And so, I had to sit there every day and talk to 3 to 4 to 5. And then from that, come back with something for the show or for the news. Then I started writing and producing for the show as well. And built a rapport, I think, where I would go in there and I was never the fucking butt of the joke. Once or twice when I'd fuck something up, yeah.
Right.
When I moved to Alabama, sure. But at the end of the day, I don't think people respected John, and I think he knows that.
Yeah.
And I think that bothers him. And, at the end of the day, he should be happy for the times he had there. I am. I loved my 15 years. I wouldn't change it for a thing.
Yeah.
And just move forward. Move forward. There's a market out here for you.
Yeah.
The other day he did a thing where he's going, I'm never going on a show unless they pay me. Okay. We offered him over $5,000 to be roasted.
Ooh.
Nope. Nothing. I've said it just on the show we did today. The next YouTube live we do, come on with us, and I will give you every penny of every super chat that comes in. It's all yours. It's all yours. Won't touch a dime of it. And it'll come from me, not a fifth party.
Yeah.
I will directly give you that money. And so he's full of shit. At the end of the day, believe it or not, we're trying to help him. We really are.
Yeah. And there's that whole swimming upstream angle of this that you're talking about. Like, the guy had a hell of a run. I mean, there's a lot of people in the business he was in that didn't get the run he did, and on limited actual talent. Like, he was able to, a guy who was famous for having a stutter got hired to be the announcer for the Tonight Show. If he wouldn't swim upstream and, again, as Carl says, recapture the glory days, and would it just be comfortable with what he was and be comfortable with where he is now? I think that's one of the biggest tragedies about John, is he continues to swim upstream when the minute he decided to be self-aware and decided to embrace what he is, probably all of it, if not a good part of it, stops, and he could have kind of a weird internet renaissance, but there's too much ego there.
There's way too much, and it can be done very easily. All he has to do is just come to terms with, okay, I'm a Wack Packer now, so let them use me as a Wack Packer, and you'll be fine. If you just drop all that facade bullshit, and just be like, this is what they want to see, I'll give it to them.
Right,
and they'll love it.
Now, what do you say about this? Because I asked Carl this. I haven't had a chance to ever ask you this. This is the first time we've spoken. But to multiple people in the chat who I have now seen go, I'm starting to feel bad for John. How do you respond to that?
I mean, me personally, I don't, just because, the fucking guy went out of his way to fuck shit up for me. Yeah. And I never did anything. This guy had somebody come out to my Long Island show to threaten me to stop doing the podcast about John. Jeez. His buddy Danny from Long Island with a cane showed up, limping around, doing his best Sopranos impression.
Yuck.
Huntsville ain't too far away. That's all I'm saying.
No, he did. That's not a direct quote, is it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's because before that he goes, well, he comes up to, I'm at the bar. The show has started. It's me and High Pitch Eric at the bar, and this guy limps over on a cane. And I'd heard beforehand that John called one of his buddies and told him to come down.
Okay.
He told one of his friends that I do jokes about his kid on stage and to come. And so this is the type of shit you have to. It's just a fucking lie. I've never done a joke about his kid. I never will. He has quite a bit.
Yeah.
Still does. Jokes about his kid and what they went through. So anyhow, he limps over to me at the bar and he just goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Good." And as soon as I saw the cane, I'm like, "This is John's hitman. This is John's." And he just goes, "That podcast about Stuttering John, might want to stop doing it."
You.
And I'm like, and I just go, "Are you the guy John sent to threaten me?" And he goes, no, nobody's threatening anybody over here. And I go, "John called you and told you to come down." "Nobody told me anything." He goes, and he starts limping out and he goes, "All I'm saying is Huntsville ain't too far away."
God, dude, I'm uncomfortable just hearing that secondhand. Oh, ugh.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, the copyright strikes on our channels, all this shit, coming up to me while we're on location doing the Stern show and trying to, do his kamikaze style interview.
Yeah.
when I'm at the hotel, which ironically is not illegal, but somebody filming John at Pickwick Pub at midnight, shit-faced, yelling at somebody who's parked behind him so he can drive home drunk. That he went to the authorities because it's illegal to film someone who claims to be world famous at a public location.
So, needless to say, there's plenty of gas left in the Uncle Rico tank as far as material as far as John goes. You guys have a lot left in the quiver, so to speak.
I mean, it's all him. He keeps filling it. You know what I mean? Like we're late as far as WATP goes. We're late to the goofing on John party. So there is a lot of back content that we can do. That's why we have a second show called The Blunder Years, all those beers ago. And that one is more about going down memory lane, some of the highlights from the past. But Rico is literally every day he does a show, we have 7 to 10 clips from it.
Yeah.
That that we can go over. So,
and again, if you guys want to check those out, patreon.com/The Shuli Show, youtube.com/The Shuli Show. There's also the Patreon for the Miserable Men Show and all that. Talk to him about Miserable Men for just a second. Of course, Levy, whenever you and Levy are in there, I mean, you're great. And Levy is such, like, he's like the old wily veteran who's just like all of a sudden now full of this wisdom and like just making these moves now. It's really kind of cool to see what Bob Levy's grown into and to watch you guys work together.
Yeah, he very big emphasis on the old, and it is great to work with him again. The Miserable Men was a show that Tim Sabian, we tricked him into letting us go on the air. Tim is, when he used to be the program director for Howard's Channels at Sirius.
Yeah.
He's just one of these guys. He's like a Tasmanian devil. He's just always going, always say, "What's going on, buddy? How are you, pal?" Boom, 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 checking in on everybody. And so Bob tells me one day, he goes, because everybody was getting in like a tryout show on Channel 101. So Bob says to me, "Just tell Tim we'll be there Tuesday for our show." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And I said to Tim, we're on for Miserable Men Tuesday night, right? And he's like, yep. I go, "Okay, guys will be here 8:00. Yeah. So we lied to get our way on the air. At that time, it was myself, Bob, and Jim Florentine. And then Florentine started dating Robin, so that was over. And Mike Morse was with us. Actually, Mike, I think, was with us from the start as well. And then Mark Burns joined the show later on, and we went from a 1-hour specialty show during the week to filling in for Pharrell, filling in for Bubba, and eventually doing 4 hours every Sunday night on 101. And so it was a fun show we loved doing. Bob was fucking whacked out on pills at that time, so it didn't end well for all of us. And he did a Jerry Maguire, and none of us went with him. and we didn't talk for over 10 years. Him and I, we just didn't talk. And then when I left the show and I started podcasting, I said, I think the Miserable Men Show, I think we should do it. It was always something in my head that when I would leave, that would be one of the things I wanted to do, because I missed doing that with my friends. Yeah. And so we started it back up, and a whole cast of characters now. We had Brent on for a while with us. Yep. And Brent's taking a break for a little while. He's working on some other stuff. Yes, he's alive. Just want to throw that out there. So it's a blast doing Miserable Men, man. It's a good time. It's fun. We're doing it the way we did it back then, which was just we have a plan going in. It usually never sticks to that plan, so it's fun. Yeah. It's that organic radio. Yeah, that's something I always hear. I'll never forget hearing Patrice O'Neill say that on a show. He said, "You always prepare. You prepare as much as you can because it gives you the freedom to work off the cuff." Because you always know you can go back to this other stuff. Like that's when I was doing radio, people, if somebody would go, "Oh, what's the most important part for your show?" It's like, you gotta prep. Anyone who thinks they can just turn on a microphone and just go, you're gonna be you're in for the shock, because if you can get something prepared
It might be, like you said, it might be something you never touch. But you know you have it if you need it.
Right. And if you don't, then you're going, all right. Top 5 guitarists. Let me start at number 1.
Yeah. The audacity of that man to not even be able to pull off a show sober and then to think he can drink during it and somehow make it better.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he's as they say in the poker world, pot committed to alcohol at this point. He's all in.
Yeah.
And that's a shame because that's the biggest reason for all of this is he's leaving himself vulnerable for all this shit because he's always shit-faced.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned Attell, and I didn't want to get on it at the time. We were talking about John, but the thing about Attell, you are not the first guy I've heard say that about. If you're around Attell or you watch too much Dave Attell, that cadence, that ba 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 ba, like the way he speaks, it's so distinct that it just seeps into you. I've heard people say that nobody has influenced more comics, knowingly or unknowingly, than Dave Attell.
I agree with that 100%. I agree with that. And what's the craziest thing about Dave is how all of us feel about him. He's the last guy to feel that way about him, which is one of the reasons why I think he's so great is because he just hates himself. So like he just, I worked with him in Pennsylvania once and he was up there and he did the greatest fisting joke I've ever heard in my life. He goes, people say fisting isn't romantic. I disagree. Let's say you're on the deck of a cruise ship. The sun is setting and you go elbow deep and you pull out a ring. He goes, and she says, I thought you were going to put it in my food. And you said, I kind of did. And I was like, oh, that is the funniest fucking thing. And he comes off stage and I go, Dave, that's one of the funniest fisting jokes I've ever heard. And he's like, yeah, it's all right. He goes, all right.
Yeah. Oh,
so
it almost makes him more endearing, though.
Yeah, and that's how we are. We are our own worst enemy. We hate ourselves. It's why taping our sets is so hard because we hate listening to ourselves. You know, it's all tied in. That misery is fuel for a lot of comics.
It's so strange. I wanted to ask you about that because you can talk about like the self-hatred or whatever, or you don't see what other people see, even though and like I will not, like John, scoff at the term dabbling. I've been in and out doing comedy. Like we do live events for the show and stuff. I'll do time, and I started emceeing and stuff, but not. I've never been able to understand. You got this room full of people. They just told you unequivocally you're fucking hilarious. There's something healthy and unhealthy at the same time about not believing those people because you can get high on yourself a little too much, but also there's that other side, like you said about Dave, who is objectively brilliant, or like you, who's an incredibly funny guy. How are you able to watch The Verdict time and time again, but still maintain, no, I've still got a long way to go?
I think we figure out that the minute you're like, I'm fine. This is where I need to be. I'm perfect. Like you're never going to write a new joke. You're never going to go any farther. The minute it's like sharks, we can't stop. We can't stop moving. We can't stop second guessing ourselves. We can't stop kind of doubting ourselves. You know, it's why the shit shows are the ones we always talk about.
Yeah.
When we hang out, you know, because doing good or killing or crushing or whatever you want to call it, you know, that happens a lot more than the bombing. The bombing, the shit shows, you know, the low turnouts, those are the stories we share because that's kind of where you earn it. That's where you become, you know, that's boot camp. That's the Navy SEAL shit where it's like you either ring the bell after you performed in front of 4 people and go home and never come back, or you fucking pick up that log and go back in the ocean.
Yeah, all of us can have like a when we're starting out a couple of great sets and just think we're the shit and then just tap out from there. But you're right, it's those really shitty ones, those bombings that kind of tell you if you're made for it or not. I remember I was featuring here locally at Benton Station in Sauk Rapids, and I just ate it hard. And it was at a time where I was probably 2 or 3 years in, and I had really had a good string of sets. I'm feeling good about myself, and I went to the headliner. I go, man, I've been doing this for a few years. I need to ask you something. And this is when I knew I was bound to be a broadcaster and not a comic. I said, when does this feeling that I just want to fucking die go away after I have a set like that? And he said, well, I've been doing it for 12 years. And when it happens, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I went,
yeah,
fuck.
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bombed so much early on in Vegas that I used to have a rule in my head that it was like, I got 10 minutes to wish myself dead and hate myself.
Yeah.
And then I got to wipe the slate clean. Tomorrow's a new day.
Right.
That's it. Like, learn from it. But that's the thing with the shit shows is if you're doing it right, you're learning more from those than the ones where you're killing it.
Yeah, and that's definitely where I can then understand the idea of I'm not going to let myself get too high on the applause breaks and the great set I had, because that is kind of that part where you go, wait a minute, now I'm just kind of accepting what I am instead of going, what am I going to be tomorrow? I can see where that would lead to complacency.
Yeah, like I'm from the thought of like I would rather stumble onto a hilarious line or bit on stage in the moment than get a standing ovation at the end. You know what I mean? That the on the fly coming up with something, crafting, as John would say, in that moment feels so fucking amazing. When you're working on a bit that hasn't worked the last 3 times you went up, and then you're going up there 4th time and you don't really care about it and it just comes out different and it hits and you're like, oh, in your head, you're just like, so that's how I got to do it. And that feeling of like, I found it. It's like unlocking a safe, cracking a safe. That love that.
Yeah, it's fucking hard, man. I will always say, like, anyone who makes their living as a full-time comic is, people say, oh, like, who are the greatest comedians ever? And my answer is always, whoever does it for a living full time, they're amongst the greatest ever. Because as someone who has been doing it off and on for goddamn like 10 years now and knows that I will never go further than performing in front of my own audience because I just don't have the guts and what it takes inside to just eat that shit sandwich and keep going. I found that comfortable spot where I could go perform in front of my show's audience and then you could kill and it's more of a hangout. And I went, okay, these guys who can push past this and just keep grinding away at it. I mean, I feel like just being able to pay a mortgage and make a living doing comedy deserves a hell of a lot more respect than I think it gets. Because people will watch someone who does make a living doing comedy and they'll go, oh, well, they're only doing this and they're not doing this special like a Bill Burr's doing or anything. It's like, no, that guy is the funniest fucking person bar none, and it's not even close. It's like watching a guy be like a 6th man in basketball and going, oh, that guy sucks. It's like that guy would crush anyone any single time at this game.
Right. The guy in the last place in the depth chart will fucking rock your world.
Yeah. He'll annihilate a D1 football team all on his own. The run you had on Howard was really something, and you mentioned working with all the Wack Packers that you had to. As a fan and as a guy who was in radio and now does a podcast now, I have to say, I always say the greatest radio character of all time in my mind is Beetlejuice. And you're a guy who's obviously worked with him very closely. What was it like having to work with all those Wack Packers? How hectic could it be? Did you enjoy it? What was it like?
Yeah, well, first of all, I gotta take umbrage with the word character, my friend.
You're right. It's a shoot.
Yeah, it's 100% shoot. I mean, I love that people would ask me on the road a lot. They go, so what's he really like? And I'm like, oh, he's got a British accent. He knits. Like, what do you think he's like? This is Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
No, Beetle is definitely, for me, it's tough because they're all my children's, as ODB would say. And Beetle, I spent probably the most time with on the road, sharing hotel rooms. I felt like, I used to work before I was employed with Stern. While I was doing stand-up in the summertime, sometimes I would go and work at this summer camp I used to go to as a kid as a counselor.
Okay.
Some call it a molester. I call it a counselor. So
allegedly,
accused, never convicted. But I would, so I kind of would turn into camp counselor mode on these tours, on the Killers of Comedy tours, where Beetle was just kind of, everybody's like, he's fine, he'll figure it out, and I'd be like, no, he's not going to figure it out.
No.
He thinks we're in he thinks he can walk home from Texas to Jersey, so he's not going to figure it out.
One of the greatest things I've ever heard him say on a microphone is when Howard asked him if he would vote for Obama, and he goes, "Fuck no, I hate Obama." And then Howard goes, "Yeah, but you're black. I thought you voted." He goes, "I ain't black. I'm Puerto Rican." And Howard goes, "Oh, you're Puerto Rican?" He goes, "I might be black. I might be Puerto Rican, but I ain't stupid."
Yeah, amen. That's a T-shirt. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where you sell it, but that's a T-shirt. Yeah. No, he's one of a kind, man, and I wanted to make sure that he was taken care of and that he wasn't just kind of out there by himself.
Yeah.
And so rooming with him was a thing in the moment. If you would have told me I'd miss this one day, I'd be like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
But I do. I miss that guy a ton. Eric the actor was another dude that I think it's a photo finish between him and Beat as the greatest of all time out of the Wack Pack. High Pitch is a very, very close runner-up. Another guy I spent a ton of time with. The great ones are the ones you don't have to think of anything or come up with a piece of business or an agenda to bring them in. You just, that when I was working for the news team, my beat was the Wack Pack. So I would check in with them all the time. But some Wack Packers, I would have a piece of business going into it. Others, I could just cold call and just call Patricia, Tan Mom, at any time of the week, at any day. And she'd go, "Hello, the SWAT team's here," and boom. And we got something.
Yeah.
So Bigfoot, Patricia, Tam Mom, Beat, Eric, those were all people that you could just pick up the phone and cold call, and you'd get gold every time.
God, that just
I love working with them. They were for me. It's one of the things I love the most about the show as a listener, as a super fan, is the Wack Pack and the back office stuff. That was it for me.
Now, and it's amazing that you can look back at that and you go, yeah, at the time it's fucking hectic, but I love it now. And like getting that assignment and working with those guys, like when you got it, were you excited for it, or was it more of an oh shit kind of a thing?
Well, no, nobody gave it to me, right? Because I was on this news team at the beginning. I wasn't a writer and producer, so I'm a reporter for the Howard 100 News, and I'm surrounded by real journalists, people Emmy nominated, Emmy winners, people who have done this their whole life, investigative reporters who have caught criminals, who have had businesses, corporations shut down due to their reporting. It's a real deal fucking people. And I don't know how to do any of that shit. And I'm not I don't want to be a journalist. I don't want to be a guy that busts somebody or uncovers something. So what is something that I love that I can point my energy and resources towards? And that is the Wack Pack. Yeah. I had already been friendly with High Pitch, with a bunch of them, Boots, I knew a bunch of the Wack Pack. So why not focus on this beat? And so for me, it was like, I just went out and did it, because I'm not going to top Steve Langford. I'm not going to top John Lieberman. I'm not going to sound as good as Ralph Howard. So for me, I'm going to go where the action is for me, which is the Wack Pack. And as a comic, it makes it so I can showcase my sense of humor in the stories as well.
Yeah.
So,
it's awesome to watch you go back and tell these stories, and you're smiling and you're laughing while you're doing it. It kind of, not to get too psychological and like you said, bring the mood down, but it's nice because it kind of shows that what you're doing now with Uncle Rico and all the work you're doing with Mike and Bob and all those guys and doing stand-up, it shows that you still you love what you're doing now. Because I think what I see, not to tie this back to John, but I think what I see with people like that, they maybe don't enjoy what they do now, so it almost hurts to go back. But it's really nice to watch somebody like you, tell these stories and laugh about them and look back at them with fondness, because I think it shows that you really enjoy what you're doing now and you don't feel any of that insecurity. It's great to see that you've just gone from strength to strength, from Howard to what you're doing now.
Well, I mean, I appreciate it. It took a little while, you know. It was it was a big change, you know, obviously financially, but just, you know, mentally kind of getting out of that loop that you're in,
Yeah.
that lazy river that you've been in for 15 years, right? So, so it took some adjustment and it took some kind of rewiring, you know,
Yeah.
because you get to a point where you doubt yourself, where you're not sure, did I make a mistake? You know, I was doing the Shuli show, and at some point I was just like, I'm not really feeling this like I was at the beginning. I don't want to reach out to people to ask them to come on. I'm
Yeah.
kind of losing steam in this. And then you're like, okay, so what do you do now? Like, what's the next move if you're not going to do this, you know? Um, and to be honest with you, like stand up is always something that I know I can do.
Right.
The change in location to where we were at made it a bit more difficult at first to be able to pull it off. Plus with COVID, plus, you know, so it set me back some stand up wise as well. And and so everything kind of at one point there was a big fucking log in that river that I was in and
Yeah.
everything was stopped. And so I wasn't sure uh, if I was just going to go get a regular gig and just be like, you know what? I had 15 of the greatest years of my life. I've done shows, you know, all over. I've got to work with some of my comedy heroes.
Yeah.
It's been a good run. Let's go rent some cars at Enterprise. You know,
Yeah.
it's as a father, as somebody that I'm responsible for somebody else's lives and providing for it. You got to let go of that ego and you got to be
Yeah.
prepared to do whatever it is you got to do to provide. And so at one point, I was at that point. It was after my mom passed away, too. So
Okay.
everything was just like fucking, it was just piling on, piling on. But, you know, my wife is somebody that has helped me tremendously throughout the years. And so she stepped up to the plate again and just kind of steered me back on track and helped me realize, look, this is what you want to do. You're good at it. You enjoy it. So do it. Find an angle to enjoy, you
Yeah.
know? And so I tried a show with a buddy of mine, James Mattern, a comic. Thanks for coming out, a podcast about bombing, which is still, we both love doing it. We both want to continue doing it. Number
Yeah.
one, it's hard that we're in two different places. And number two, you know, our schedules, I mean, he's all over the place. He opens for uh Chris
Okay.
DiStefano, and he hosts and works every club in the city, and he's James is just a beast. And you know, and I'm over here being a dad, and I'm doing
Yeah.
3 podcasts a day and here and there going out on the road. So that didn't work out. But then we start doing Miserable Men, and Miserable Men becomes the fun show for me, and something that kind of reignited the fire for me. And we got into this role, into this rhythm of like old school. That we got our chemistry, and then we tried the John thing, and
Yeah.
it felt fun. And I knew I had to. I did like 2 on my own, I think, and then I brought Mike in because when it comes to busting balls, there's nobody better than Mike Moores.
Yeah.
And I've known that for years. That's why I hate him, but I love him. You know, he's the goon on the hockey team. You
Yeah.
love that he's on your team, but you hate him when he's on the other team,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
So,
Yeah.
and then I knew Bob is just a fucking sniper and brilliant. But Bob was in this mode of like, I don't hate the guy,
Yeah.
but I'll come on and just goof on shit. And then sure enough, John, being John, gave Levy a reason to hate him.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's just it's a blast to be able to um find a lane where we all can do what we love to do and start gathering an income from it, a good income, you know. But yeah, it's you just got to keep going, man. You gotta, if it's something that you love. I've been blessed enough to monetize almost all my passions in life.
Yeah.
You know, wrestling fan, video games, you know, radio, stand up. You know, I'm a child,
Yeah.
but I couldn't have had a better run, and I'm excited for the future. We're getting ready to do a show in February in Rochester with WATP and Uncle Rico teaming up.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I believe it. We're going to be calling it John Con,
Yeah.
and we got some details. It's going to be 2 days of peace and drool,
Yeah.
and then we have bunch of stand up dates that I'm booking now. I mean, who knows what else is going to happen on Uncle Rico? We're excited.
Who knows? Maybe you could bring Chad Zumach out. I hear he's a big fan.
Listen,
He's
Chad,
always been nice to you. He's always been nice to you.
He's always. I know everybody's going to look for me to trash him, but
No.
I don't have a bad thing to say about Chad. He's always been good to me. It's all this drama is fucking, it's just insane to me. And it's fun to watch. Don't get me wrong.
It's great to watch. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't get it, man. Can't we all just get along? You know,
No.
I believe the comic Shecky Green said that years ago.
Can't we all just get along? Says the guy shitting on Stuttering John for a living.
Yeah, I mean, but hey, he started it, dude. He started, Aaron. I don't care what anybody says.
But that's how all of this shit happens. We go, can't we all get along? And it's literally somebody pipes up with, he started it. And then it's all bets are off.
That's right. That's right. As long as you don't start it, we can all get along. We are all one. But once you start it, somebody's going to have to finish it.
Yeah, okay. Well, fair enough. Well, hey, I mean, I hope you're not finishing it anytime soon. I hope this is like Hogan and Macho Man leading into WrestleMania 5. I hope it's just a long 1 year or longer program where I hope you slow burn the John thing.
Yeah, we're building towards Hell in a Cell, and once we touch, the roof's gonna blow off the place. Listen, I don't want it to end anytime soon. I want him to be successful. I think, if I would give him some business advice, I would say put all your shit back up on YouTube, put all your shit back up on Patreon. Open the floodgates with your super chats, put every message up that you won't even have to book a guest. That's how much super chats you're going to get. Yeah. If you say on today's episode, I've unblocked everybody on today's episode, whatever super chat you don't, whatever you write, I'm putting up on the screen. Yep. How much do you think he's going to make that show?
Oh,
give me a number.
Definitely in the 4 figures.
I agree.
God damn, let's think. There'll be quite a few 100s. I'm going to say he could probably in one, like, let's say it's a 2-hour show I don't think it's out of the possibility to say anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000.
I would agree.
I think he could do it.
And that's all you got to do. And that's free of charge.
Right.
All right.
It doesn't hurt your business. You can still goof on John, even if it becomes self-aware. Like, you can still have a back and forth. I mean, the only person who's not monetizing John right now is John.
And guess what else? You leave that video up, John, and you make money off a video you're not even doing live.
Right.
Guess how many views that video is going to get of you putting up every message? How many trolls are going to share that with people all over the world? You want to be world famous? Be the goddamn Wack Packer you are.
Right.
Do it.
Exactly.
Do it. Be Ron Burgundy. Read everything on that goddamn teleprompter.
I think you're 100% right. And that's a good spot to leave it right there. Again, all of the links are in the chat, but we'll run through them again. There's a lot of them. Follow Shuli on Twitter. That's number one. You can get a lot of links and all of that. It's Shalom Shuli on Twitter. You've also got for the Uncle Rico show, the Patreon. I highly recommend you join that. Patreon.com/The Shuli Show. The Shuli Show on YouTube. Patreon.com/The Miserable Men Show. Am I missing anything?
I think that's a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I apologize. Twitch. Twitch.tv/ I think it's twitch.tv/Shalom Shuli TV. If you want to see a grown man call everybody a cheater that kills him in Call of Duty.
Yeah,
feel free to tune in.
Could be fun too. Well, man, it's great to big fan of the stuff on Howard, and great to see you transition out of it so well where many others haven't. And it's just nice to see that you're happy doing what you're doing. And again, I can't appreciate you enough taking the time to talk to us today.
No problem, man. And thanks for leaving your wife out of this. I didn't want to have to dress her down.
Right? Fucking enough of her, right? I mean, they just get a big head and they think that it's theirs.
It's my favorite part of the show when she's talking and you do the wide shot and you just see you over there going.
I think we were we had a phone in with Carl and or a Zoom in with Carl and Gino when they were doing that content house this weekend. And she started talking about like, oh yeah, it's just great that we can work together. And I just leaned over and went, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Get it? You throw a frying pan near her and you just go,
Yeah.
do what you do. I'll do what I do.
Well, if you let them get too comfortable, you know.
Next thing you know, they're voting. Tell me about it.
I know. But you know what? We're working on that this election, I feel like. I think we're getting close. Closer than we've ever been.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. All right, Shuli, thank you very much, buddy. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Aaron. Talk to you later, buddy.